gonna ignore my little bangs situation that we got going here. It's irrelevant. Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name's Allie. If you're new here, hello. If you're returning, welcome back. I appreciate you. Thank you for not being sick of me yet. So it is the end of March, reading wrap-up time. This month was a bit of a variety month. I read quite a bit of a lot of genres, especially ones that I haven't read in a while. I read quite a bit of my thriller collection that I have not touched in months, which I was happy about because those have all been on my TBR for a while. I read a little bit more poetry, read some romance, read some just like literature. I guess that's the right way to explain it. I haven't really read anything for this whole last week, but all in all, it was an okay month. I was happy that I read the genres I did and got back into the areas I haven't read in a while. But yeah, let's get right into it. So the first book I read was Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey. This is the sequel to It Happened One Summer. It's a companion novel series. The second book specifically follows Hannah and Fox. Hannah and Fox meet in the first book, and this is them kind of rekindling their romance after not seeing each other for a year-ish. Fox has a bit of a bad reputation around town. He doesn't really think that he deserves Hannah and her attention and her affection and all that. Hannah has a major crush on Fox, but doesn't think that Fox is ever going to be emotionally available enough to be in a relationship. They do have very strong feelings for each other. This is more of a friends to romance, a friends to lovers. Very cute. I adored it just as much as I adored the first one. If you haven't read either of these, I highly suggest you check them out. They're very good. So getting back into my true crime, I finished the Truly Devious series. So I read the second and third book, The Vanishing Stare and The Hand on the Wall. The very first one, I read it months ago and I loved it, but I just got into so many other books that I forgot to read the rest of the series. So I finished it. Overall, this is a YA kind of thriller murder mystery. This is what the first book looks like. So it's a 3-book series. There is a 4th book out, but it's more of just like a novella. It has nothing to do with the main series storyline. It's just a spin-off with one of the main characters. But this is a great series to start with if you're looking to get into any sort of true crime thriller. It's not scary or like horror-y. It's kind of just like a whodunit murder mystery. It's very good though. I really liked it. I believe I 5-starred the first book and I think I 3 or 4-starred the rest of it. And it was good. I hadn't read these two till months after I read the first one. It wasn't anything where like I forgot what happened in the first book and it made these confusing. Easy to follow. I think I was able to like figure some stuff out on my own. It definitely wasn't so simple that I knew the entire plot line by the end of the first book. It's very good. There's a lot going on, fast-paced, it'll keep you entertained. Very good if you want to get into the genre. If you're already into it and you haven't read it, I highly suggest it. YA thrillers are usually very good, and this one definitely stands up, so go check them out if you haven't. So then over on the Kindle side, I read 1,000 Boy Kisses by Tilly Cole. This has been recommended to me a lot, and I just hadn't felt the want to read it. For whatever reason, I finally did this month and I read it and I loved it. I 5-starred it. It was heartbreakingly beautiful. Definitely a book to make you cry. But this is a childhood friends to lovers. I would check trigger warnings before you read it in case this has any sensitive content for you individually. It follows Rune and Poppy. They meet as children. Rune moves to Georgia from another country, so he is completely isolated, can barely speak the language, has absolutely no friends. Poppy is his next door neighbor. They meet when they're like 5. They become best friends. They're friends their entire lives. He moves away in his early teens and eventually moves back like their last couple years of high school. It's kind of them rekindling their friendship and eventual romance. Heartbreakingly beautiful. There's a lot more to the storyline than that, but I feel like any more than that will kind of get into spoiler territory, but it's very cute. It's great. People love it for a reason. It's popular for a reason. If you love Fault in Our Stars-y types books, you will love these. You want something to make you feel things, I highly suggest it. And then right behind that also on Kindle was Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. This I had seen recommended a couple places, but not a lot. It was very good. I 4-starred it. I still wanted a little bit more from it than what it gave. This has the energy of a Colleen Hoover book to me, as Colleen energy, specifically kind of like a reminders of him energy. But this follows Naomi and Knox. Naomi has a twin sister who has had a tough life and continues to have a tough life. She is always getting in trouble for breaking into houses, robbing people, drug crime, all this stuff. Her sister has a very bad reputation, and them being twins, sometimes Naomi gets roped up into it because they look so alike. And that happens one time when Naomi is going to go bail her sister supposedly out of jail. She goes to a coffee shop where she bumps into Knox, who does not like her sister and assumes that Naomi is her sister and starts yelling and screaming at her and telling her to get out. And Naomi's like, okay, well, hold up, I'm not my sister and you're being a jerk. So that's how they first meet. Naomi realizes that she's not there to bail her sister out and kind of gets roped into one of her sister's plans, where she ends up meeting her niece that she doesn't know she has, doesn't know exists, and ends up becoming her niece's sole provider. So she suddenly just has this teenage now daughter that she didn't know existed a half an hour before. So she kind of is stuck in this small town that Knox lives in, who doesn't like her, raising this teenage girl. And it's her and Knox falling in love. Knox is definitely an interesting character. He is a little bit of a morally gray character, but I thought this book was really cute. I loved seeing the relationship between Naomi and her niece grow throughout the book, and her relationship with Knox and the whole small town feel. It's very cute. I 4-starred it. I would check it out if you haven't. Then I've been trying to get more into poetry books. I have a couple, but not a lot. It hasn't been something that I normally just go out and like read, and I've been trying to expand into that area a little bit more. So I bought and read all 3 of Rupi Kaur's books. So it's Milk and Honey, Homebody, and The Sun and Its Flowers. I tapped the crap out of them. I really liked them. I read them immediately. They're just a collection of poetry by Rupi Kaur. I very much enjoyed them. Favorite was Milk and Honey. I think probably like 4-starred Homebody and The Sun and Its Flowers, but I 100% 5-starred Milk and Honey. This is my favorite one out of the 3. Yeah, I think that they're really good poetry books. They're easy to go through, very relatable for me personally, at least. Yeah, if you're looking for some poetry, I feel like these are fairly popular. Most people have read them, but if you haven't yet, I highly suggest them. So back over on Kindle, also on Kindle Unlimited, I read The Silence Between Us by Alison Grievous. This is a book with deaf representation. I personally am deaf. I wear hearing aids. Have been deaf my whole life, so I really like reading books that have deaf representation in them. There's not a lot of it out there, unfortunately. That's definitely something that I personally really love from books and wish there was a lot more of, is deaf representation. But this is definitely a very good book that I would suggest people to start with if you want to read more books with deaf representation and learn more about that community. I think that this is a very good book to start with. This is a contemporary romance. It follows our main character, Maya. She is deaf and has been going to a deaf school her whole life. She has to move because her mother has a job transfer, and she's going to her first hearing school in years. So it's her acclimating from a world of people in the deaf community that know how to communicate with her back into the hearing world with people who can be ignorant about her situation and unsupportive and don't know how to communicate with her the right way, and just her struggles in the hearing world. And I personally related to it a lot. I personally 5-starred it because it really hit home a lot for me. I don't necessarily know if people that aren't in the deaf community will 5-star it. It's definitely still an amazing book. It is contemporary romance because she does end up having a relationship with a boy she meets in her school, but it is not a book that is written for romance. This is not like I wrote a romance book. This is a book that she wrote to help educate people about people that are deaf and hard of hearing in the deaf community, and just has like romance as the subplot. Because I was reading some reviews on Goodreads from people that aren't necessarily in the deaf community, and they were like, blah, I wanted more romance, but that's not the point of the book. That's the subplot to keep the story moving. The point of the book is deaf representation and to help educate people, which I really enjoyed. I thought that, yeah, you definitely could have expanded and gone more into depth with the romance, but I thought it was a really relatable romance situation, one that I have 100% been in myself, even with my current boyfriend who is hearing. I just simply loved it, and I really recommend it if you guys want a recommendation that can just help you get some some general basis on the deaf community and some deaf representation into your reading, I highly, highly suggest it. I loved it. So next up, going back into my thriller and like murder mystery category, I read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. Again, this was recommended to me all over and I've had it for a while. It's just been sitting on my thriller shelf. For whatever reason, I have not touched my thriller shelf in months. So I was happy to finish the Truly Devious series and pick something new up off the shelf. I started this book and I'm definitely still interested in reading the rest of the series. I just don't have it yet. But I really enjoyed this series. I believe this is also considered YA. Again, YA thrillers and YA murder mysteries are very good. This is another good series to start with if you're trying to start into a thriller murder mystery genre. I do also suggest to start with this series. So this follows our main character, Pip. There is a murder mystery in her town. It's not really a mystery, but years ago, there was a senior girl who was murdered by her boyfriend, and that boy was arrested. It's 50-50. Most of the community believes that her boyfriend was the person that killed her, and he's in jail for a reason. And some people don't believe that's what happened. They think there's more to the story, and Pip is one of those people. She thinks that the boy that's in jail for this murder is innocent, and what happened is not happened, and she wants to prove that. So for her like senior project in school, she wants to try and prove the boy that's in prison for this girl's murder to be innocent. And as she's digging up clues and kind of connecting the dots surrounding this murder, she's starting to get like her own threats and her own problems that are kind of related to the murder of this girl. It's very good. Towards like the very end, when she started connecting all the dots, I was able to be like, oh yeah, I think it's this person. But this was not at all anything where I was like, the first 10 pages, I was like, oh, this is a Scooby-Doo thing. It's obviously that guy. So it's YA, but it was written really well, and I highly suggest it. It was very good. So next I read Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. This has been recommended to me a million times. Finally picked it up and read it. I loved it. I 4-starred this book. There was just something missing for me. Can't tell you what it was, but it was just some little bit of a wow factor that was missing for me, but I still adored it. It's a great book. So this follows the main character, Bree. She moves to this small town after going through some trauma in her hometown to just kind of get away and kind of try to find herself and stuff again. So she moves to this small town and gets this little waitressing job. Very small, tight-knit community where she meets Archer, who is just kind of like the weird guy around town. And he just kind of keeps to himself. Everybody's just like, he's weird, don't talk to him. But he's actually just super misunderstood. This has very much like To Kill a Mockingbird vibes. To Kill a Mockingbird, but make it contemporary romance. But it's very cute. Archer is a gem. I love him. He's one of my new favorite book boyfriend characters. I adore him. I adored this book. It's very good. I read this in one sitting, could not pick it up when I put it down. Wow. Could not put it down when I picked it up. It's amazing. People love it for a reason. It's popular for a reason. Please go read it if you haven't. It's a beautiful book. I adored it. So then the next thing that I read was Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. This is technically a memoir of Dolly Alderton. I have no idea who she is. I just thought that the cover was compelling. I am a sucker for bright, colorful colors. Like, I mean, my hair is dulling now, but look at my hair. It's brightly colored, and this is a bright neon colored cover, so I impulsively bought it based on the cover. I definitely have some tabbed areas for stuff that I related to, but I personally 3-starred it because I have no connection to the author. I would assume that if you're some sort of fan of this author, you might have more of a connection to it. And it's a memoir, so it's parts of her personal life. There are definitely some things that I related to and really enjoyed. I just didn't have any super deep personal connection to this author, so that's why I 3-starred it. I suggest it if you want to read a memoir. I personally don't read memoirs of people I don't know. If that's a normal thing other people do, that's great, and I suggest this one. I don't really know how to explain it. It's a memoir of somebody that I don't know, but I did enjoy it, so go check it out, I guess. So the next up, this was in my book of the month this month. I read Dating Dr. Dill by Nisha Sharma. I 4-starred this book. It's super cute. Our main characters are Karina and Dr. Prem. He has a TV show where he talks about how love is a lie. He doesn't believe in the idea of love. He doesn't think love is a real thing. And so he has like some Dr. Ozzy show, but it's basically about how love is fake. They are both of Indian culture, in her 30s, and is not married. So her family keeps trying to set her up and arrange a marriage for her because that's a normal thing for their culture. This is also like a fake dating thing, marriage of convenience at first, because Karina's father is going to sell her childhood home, and the only way that he is willing to let her keep it and not sell it and just give it to her is if she is engaged, where Dr. Prem needs a new grant for the clinic that he is trying to open. It's going to be easier for him to land the deal if he is able to show some sort of commitment to things. So he and Karina are kind of set up by their individual families, but they also kind of strike a deal on their own to get engaged so that Karina can keep her child at home and he can have a better chance of getting his grant. Obviously, if it's fake dating, marriage of convenience, they do end up having actual feelings. But this book is so cute. If you're a Swiftie, you'll love this book because there's a ton of Taylor Swift references in this book, which is cute. I loved it. It was super cute. I loved the representation in it. The storyline was cute. The banter is amazing. The characters are amazing. I loved it. Please go check it out if you haven't. It's amazing. So then last but not least, I ended this month off with another thriller murder mystery genre, The Golden Couple by Greer Hendricks. This was a book of the month that I got months ago because, again, I have not touched that shelf in at least like 6 months. I 3-starred this book. I liked it, but it could have been a lot more. It's a thriller, but it wasn't thrilling. Like, there was never anything that I was like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? I felt like about halfway through the book, I figured out like who our person of interest was. It wasn't the best thriller that I've ever read. It wasn't the worst. I still suggest it, but it wasn't the best. I felt like there was a lot of just filler chapters. But this follows our main characters, Avery, Marissa, and Matt. Avery is a couples therapist, and Matt and Marissa come to her to get therapy for their marriage because Marissa has cheated on Matt and they want to still try and work through their marriage because they have a son together. They still care about each other. They don't want their marriage to end, so they go to Avery for help, where Avery has some unique methods to her therapy. She has actually recently had her license to practice taken away because she went a little bit too far with some of her clients. But people still come to her because some people just like her super invasive ways of handling therapy in situations. But as Avery spends time with them and gets to know them better, she picks up on more and more secrets and things that are happening in their marriage. Again, it's a thriller that wasn't necessarily thrilling. I felt like I figured everything out halfway through. It wasn't bad, but I felt like it just could have been more. I was kind of bored with it towards the end. So yeah, I recommend it if you want some thrillers. Some other people might like it a little bit better than me. I would still recommend it, but it definitely was not my favorite thing from my filler shelf that I read this month, and this kind of put me in a reading slump. I haven't read anything for the rest of the month after reading this because it just took me a little bit to finish this because I kind of already figured out what was going on. But yeah, if you want a thriller recommendation, I still suggest it. It just personally wasn't my favorite. But yeah, those are all the books that I read in the month of March. Hopefully next month I don't have a week-long reading slump. I appreciate you guys for being here. Thank you for hanging out with me. If you want to follow me anywhere else on my social media, they will all be linked down below in the description box, also on my home screen channel banner. I'll also have linked below my Amazon wish list if you guys want to send me any books. I would greatly appreciate it. But yeah, I love you guys. I appreciate you for being here. Please stay safe, and I will see you guys somewhere else on the internet. Bye.